Welcome to the Lock Shop with Nielson and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
It is a Thursday morning. Welcome inside the Lock Shop. Dusty and Huss back with you once again, and the boys are red hot. Lock Shop partner parlay hits. Huss is what, 11 plays of the day in a row, dude?
That is correct.
I think he's muted. Are you muted, Huss?
No, I'm not muted. Can you not hear me?
Oh, we got you. We got you, dude. I got you.
Yeah, 11 in a row. And you know what, man? It's just the way things are going. I obviously been thinking about this a lot, so I went down to my local with the good NHL center ice package. We watched that Buffalo Philly game last night.
Yes.
2-2 after 2. Sabres get outshot 20-4 in the third period, but outscore Philly 3-0.
Ouch.
Carter Hart left the game with an injury mid-game. And listen, the plays that Buffalo scored on were awesome goals. I mean, Tage Thompson had a monster game. Owen Power with the beauty. But our guy UPL stood tall in that third period. And just sort of the way it's going. And then, of course, the partner parlay last night after Buffalo was in, turned it over to the Dallas-Calgary game and saw Calgary outshoot Dallas 20-5 in the third period. No problem. They got it done. And, hey, shout out to you for being the deciding factor in moving from the Coyotes to the Avs in regulation at the same number last night. No sweat for the Avs, but it would have been a disaster having to wait up until midnight or whatever to see the Ducks do it again last night. So plus 575 in. Shout out to my dad. Got a text this morning. I had $10 on the partner parlay yesterday. Thank you. So
I love that, dude.
Everyone that's been riding is in good spirits right now. And but the second that game was over, I started feeling the pressure and started looking at the slate today to figure out what I was going to throw on for the daily pick to try to make it an even dozen.
An even dozen for Haas. He looks to go there tonight. The nasty chat is absolutely hopping today. Of course, you can text us anytime, 780-218-9999, and we'll get to a few of those as well. Big Uke in the nasty chat. What a night to have a night. Let's keep this rolling, boys. I agree with him on that one. Dan's asking for Hustler to break down our draft from yesterday. I do like you as draft analyst the morning after on our show breaking it down. Let's make a mental note of that for next draft.
I would be more than happy to do that as a analyst, a specialist, as a longtime veteran of these ridiculous drafts. I'm fully willing to jump on and give a unbiased take on everybody's selections.
People are loving Scotty Barnes pulling through. Mark hit a parlay on that as well. Marshall was all over that. And Richard Cross says, boy, oh boy, great night at the ticket window, guys. Thank you. You're bang on yet again. Had my own parlay 4-gamer come in. So he was hitting as well. He was in on Hintz and Robertson last night. It's this is we said this on our show today because we hit our Edmonton Sports Talk parlay yesterday as well. Like it was just a glorious. So we set it up again today. We put together a little NFL one for tonight. Put together an Oilers special as well. Those exclusives should be up at Coolbet here momentarily. But yeah, it's just one of those. Like it's just great to have a day like yesterday, man. What can I say?
I would and you know me, I am a little superstitious. I would normally be doing far more public victory lapping on Twitter and whatnot after all of this is happening. But I just feel that the second I say, oh, we're just printing money in the lock shop, it's going to go the other way. So I'm trying to keep a lid on it and just focus on the next game. But just, you mentioned Scotty Barnes. Shout out to Marshall because he was the one that dropped in. I think he was over 17. I was even money at over 18. He had 21 last night. And by the way, that was a bit of an unexpected win last night for the Raptors.
Yeah,
I mean, they were up massive early, held on 130 points against the Bucks of all teams. Would have been a nice little money line or two to add to it if you thought they were going to win. But yeah, Marshall in chat. We always love a winner dropped into the chat. And He gave us a good one last night with Scotty Barnes.
Speaking of winners dropping in, we have not seen a return from American Hockey League total guy. Rolled in one day 2 weeks ago, dropped a Bridgeport Sound Tigers Providence Bruins total on us. We hit it, and he hasn't been seen again since. I'm still not sure it actually happened or if we all just imagined it. But, that was good.
Did. Bridgeport and Rochester, I think it was, over 5.5.
Yeah.
A memorable lock shot moment. But, yeah, listen, things are going good. We all know that could turn around. So, keep your heads. Now, that being said, I think there's a lock shoppers with maybe a little bit more room in the on the bankroll these days, considering some of these exclusives. And I got to tell you, I'm really pumped for tomorrow's show. I've just been going over these lines for Sunday, and there are some amazing games. Like, there's the early slate, whatever. But, I mean, you've got the 8:30 a.m. game or 7:30 in Edmonton, Chiefs, Dolphins, Cowboys, Eagles in the late slate.
Bills,
and then the
Bengals.
Bengals and the Sunday nighter. It is going to be a great weekend of football because, of course, we got the 2 CFL playoff games to get to on Saturday, and then more than 12 straight hours of NFL action with some big-time matchups. It should be a great weekend.
Give me 1 sec. Hey, Maddie, stream's still clubbing loop, they're saying. Just had to get the audio stream sorted out. Had some people, that's on Maddie. That's on you, dude. Let's go figure that out. So if I sound a little tired today, Huss, my plan was to watch the end of the World Series game and then go to bed. But then I turned on, because the Lakers were getting crushed. They're down by 19 in the first half. I'm like, whatever. Now, I did say yesterday on the show, Clippers plus 6.5 was probably a smart play. Clippers end up losing by 5. So cover the spread, which was nice. Lakers come back and win. So it ended up being, I watched the World Series, and then I was like, okay, time to go to bed, finally catch up on some sleep. And then I look on my phone, and the Lakers had crawled back into the game, and I was like, well, I'm going to have to watch it now. So I slide back in and ended up watching an awesome basketball game the rest of the way. Paul George had like 20 in the fourth quarter for the third time in his career. LeBron drops 35. Russell Westbrook made some big plays down the stretch. And before I know it, it's like 11:15, and I'm wrapping up a late NBA game last night. So that was tough.
Well, you know what? Your sleep you've been able to power through for a long time. This is nothing new. And I knew you'd be very interested in that Clips-Lakers game.
So, it was a great game.
Yeah,
it was an awesome November basketball game. And both teams really, it felt like a playoff game. Like, both teams wanted that one. The Lakers had lost 11 in a row. And the Clippers obviously, want to keep rolling against LA. So big win for the Lakers last night. But the Clippers actually, it was one of those perfect nights for me where the Lakers won, but I did have money on the Clippers plus 6.5. I was like, this can't get any better. So I'm assuming we've got disaster coming down the pipeline here at some point. We'll get into the Thursday nighter. Patty's going to join us. Pete Greggy from Coolbet's going to be by here. He'll pop by in about, 20 minutes. We'll bring him in. He can help us dive into the Thursday nighter even a little bit more, Huss. But you want to, first of all, your thoughts on the Texas Rangers going 11-0 in the playoffs on the road and clinching the World Series in that fashion?
Hey, hats off to the Rangers. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. I'm doing it away from home night after night after night in the playoffs. And listen, I kind of said this before. This is a very underwhelming World Series. I mean, the matchup, the two teams, not a lot of star power. Although I think when you dig a little bit deeper, if you do pay attention to the majors throughout the year, there's some real talent on both sides of the ball. That being said, from a betting standpoint over the last week, the World Series and the Rangers have been the bane of my existence. So I'm actually quite pleased that it is over and we can focus on hockey and football and some hoops and move forward. I kind of predicted this would be the lowest watched World Series, and it was by a considerable amount. 8.5 million viewers, which is about half of an average Sunday or Monday night football game in the regular season. So
8.5 million viewers in the United States doesn't move the needle at all in any way. Like, if you were to convert that down to Canada, I mean, that's like, what would be the math on that thing? Like 700,000 watching a World Series game where somebody can clinch, that's a Bombers Riders regular season game. You know, like
Yeah.
that's interesting. That's tough. Now, I did say today, I will give the Rangers credit because outside of overall, I didn't dive too much into these playoffs, but somebody asked me in 15 years, hey, what do you remember about the 2023 Rangers? I will say, oh, that's a team that went 11-0 on the road and was listening to Creed along the way. You know, like they at least did something to make themselves memorable, right? So.
Yeah, I also think about the crazy food items they have at the ballpark. That was the one thing you go, oh, we're here in Arlington at the ballpark in Arlington. They got some $99 rib shank that you put in with nachos. It's a big concession guy. I was always interested in that. But yes, the lasting memory will be the Road Warriors of the playoffs. I mean, no one's ever going to be able to top that. Undefeated 11-0 on the road. It was interesting, and now we get to free agency. You know, the Blue Jays have a lot to do.
A chance for the Blue Jays to screw it up even more.
Well, it sounds like they're going to give a qualifying offer to Matt Chapman just so they get draft compensation if he does go elsewhere. And just the Whit Merrifield was the only Silver Slugger on the Blue Jays this year. It kind of just tells you what a bizarre season it was with the team getting championship level pitching throughout the year and just not being able to hit. So let the hot stoves begin in the baseball offseason, and we move on. And congrats to the Rangers for hoisting the trophy last night.
All right, Huss, it's a busy slate in the NHL tonight. I am feeling an NHL lock shop partner parlay coming your way here because it's not like a full slate, but there's a lot of games tonight. There's a lot to break down here. How many do we got there? 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 games tonight to break down. Is there anything jumping off the page for you here?
Well, there is something that's jumping off the page. And I mean, listen, we'll give the lock shoppers the first look at the daily pick. And this is maybe going to surprise you because fading teams that are undefeated in regulation, probably not usually the way to go. But I picked underdogs the last 2 games.
Yeah.
This one was a pick 'em last night. And no, I'm not talking about the Jets in Vegas against the Golden Knights. I'm still off betting the Jets, and it's working for the club. But it's the Toronto Maple Leafs in Boston.
Whoa! You're putting the streak on the line with the Toronto Maple Leafs?
I love this spot. And again, I bet against the Leafs at home earlier this week with probably the biggest underdog we've had during the entire streak, Kings at plus 135. But I think part of the reason why I like them so much is the way the last couple of games have gone for Toronto, especially the Halloween night game against the Kings. Like, this is a really good team. I mean, they're high powered. I mean, their top players are playing well. Do they have depth scoring? No. But I think they will really be up for this game. And I guess the other thing is, I mean, Boston's not going to keep winning every game forever. We know that Toronto plays them really tough. And maybe the biggest factor in this game is that they're going to need to figure out who's going to take care of that 25 minutes that Charlie McAvoy is usually out there against those top players against Toronto. So, listen, Leafs on the road in Boston. I'm certainly not taking an easy one tonight, but I really do like Toronto to win, and I think that is going to be the play to make it a dozen tonight. But heck, there's plenty of games that we can go to. But I've always been going in and around underdogs or pick 'em games. This was minus 108 last night when I started digging into it a little bit more. Leafs are a slight favorite right now at minus 112 and the Bruins at minus 105. But I think this is a great spot for Toronto to get back in the win column, a big divisional game that they will be up for. And I think Boston is really going to be up against it. I mean, I know they've had this great start, but this is not the Bruins team of last year, despite what their record tells us it is. And the loss of Charlie McAvoy, I think, is huge when you're going up against a team that's throwing Matthews and Marner and Nylander and Tavares at you over the boards.
You're okay if we don't put Toronto on the parlay, though, right?
Hey, no problem. We can do a ride with us if we like. There's a bunch of other ones, but I'm in. I mean, does that one make you nervous, or is that just you don't want to have any part of Toronto?
Listen,
being,
I don't want any part of Toronto, A, ruining a partner parlay, and B, I really hope they're not the ones that kill your streak. I'm going to be devastated for you. I mean, you make a pretty good case for it. The McAvoy thing clearly will be a significant issue for the Boston Bruins. And, if you want to take the angle of their due for a loss here at some point, Toronto's a team that could certainly hand it to them. So I can't go against you right now, but I just don't want a bunch of things ruined by one play tonight, if it happens. So why are the Kings minus 108? It's a pick 'em with the Ottawa Senators tonight, Huss. Explain that one to me.
Good question.
This is not a fresh coach, right? This is a general manager that was fired. So I don't get it. I'm not sure what's going on here.
Well, so Ottawa's coming off a nice win against the Penguins, 5-2 in their last game, but they had lost 3 in a row before that in New York against the Islanders, and a home losses against the Sabres and the Red Wings. But before that, they put 3 pretty impressive wins together at home against, frankly, well, I shouldn't say better teams. The Capitals are struggling right now. Flyers are the Flyers, and they did beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. I don't know. Maybe did the Kings have their rookie party last night after their big win and big Halloween win in Toronto? I'm not sure. Listen, you could certainly make an argument for the Kings that there's good value there. This is a team right now that is playing at a high level. They are as deep as almost anybody at center, and we know how important that is. Running out Kopitar and Dubois and Phil Deneau. And if you look at let's look at their body of work. They came in with a real impressive win here in Winnipeg. They then went to Minnesota, put up 7 at the Wild. They did lose at home to the Boston Bruins 4-2. And other than that, back-to-back wins against the Coyotes, a shootout or overtime loss against the Golden Knights, and then that impressive win against the Toronto Maple Leafs. So if you had to ask me which side I'd be going on, I think I stay riding with the Kings. And I think we'll be pretty happy with getting it at basically a pick 'em right now against an Ottawa team that has sort of been up and down so far this year, as indicated by where they are in the standings.
Yeah, I don't mind that game. Rangers Hurricanes is kind of a big time tilt. Rangers have won 5 in a row. Hurricanes have won 3 in a row after being down in the dumps there for a little bit. That one's close to a pick 'em. Rangers minus 105, Hurricanes minus 112 on the road there. The Devils minus 119 on the road against Minnesota, who are a home dog. Our teams in our respective markets, Oilers are minus 140 favorites at home against Dallas. Dallas, of course, getting that win last night. The Jets are plus 127 dogs on the road in Vegas against the Golden Knights. Coyotes, who played last night, minus 114 at home against the Nashville Predators. Panthers and Red Wings tonight, Lightning and Blue Jackets. What else is standing out here for you, Hus?
Well, I was going to ask you about thoughts on this Dallas-Edmonton game. I mean, Dallas was fortunate not to have Calgary tie that game up in the third period. And they are playing on back-to-back nights, and I'm sure that's a bit of a reason why the Oilers, despite their record so far this year, is a minus 140 favorite, and the Dallas Stars are plus 119. I guess I can make an argument that Dallas is just a good enough team that's money worth, a line worth getting behind. But when you look at the spot, and I don't know, I mean, I have no skin in the game. I'm kind of thinking the return of McDavid, their win in that classic, the urgent spot that they are in the standings. I'm expecting we see a much better Oilers squad tonight at home ice than maybe we saw leading into the Heritage Classic.
Yeah, I'm not as confident in it as you may think that the city would be right now, because we said all of those things about the Oilers after their win in Nashville, right? They start those 2 games against Vancouver, and they're second game they were pretty good. First game they were atrocious. They crushed the Predators. They always crush the Predators. They play the Predators this Saturday afternoon. That's one that you probably want to be on. Draisaitl destroys the Preds. But then after that, they went into Philly and laid an egg. They were no good against the Philadelphia Flyers. And then, they struggled since then. So we're still trying to figure out, is this the team that we saw against Calgary, or is Calgary just brutal? And when Dallas, who's extremely deep, like Dallas's bottom 6, will skate circles around the Oilers' bottom 6. It's just a matter of if the big boys can get the job done. And I do believe, I'm going to try to bring up their head-to-head history here, because I do believe the Oilers have had some success against Dallas. Let's see here. 4-1 last year, 6-3 last year. The year before, they lost 6-2. Because a lot of people talk about Heiskanen, and he's a big defenseman, mobile defenseman who can skate extremely well. Maybe he's a guy who can keep up with McDavid. McDavid has had success against them in the past. I honestly, I don't think the Oilers should be at -140. I think they should be more like a -120 favorite in this game. So I'm a little hesitant, but if they play like they did against Calgary, they should come away with it. Had Jamie McLennan on the Nielson show today, and Noodle said he was talking with a few people that talked about the whole back-to-back situations. And he said, with the way these guys are trained now and early in the season, don't really look too much into the back-to-back, especially when there's no travel coming from Calgary to Edmonton. But with that being said, Jake Ottinger was excellent last night, and he won't be going tonight for them. So, I would put it on a short list of games we consider for the partner parlay for sure. What about that Winnipeg-Vegas game?
Well, listen, I'm not, as I said, I keep the Jets on the suspended list and they play well, so I will be doing that. Plus 127 to get the win on the money line. I think you could certainly make an argument. Listen, the Jets were the better team when these two teams played a couple weeks ago, and they got absolutely stoned by Logan Thompson, and Laurent Brossoit was just sort of so-so in his first start of the year. Certainly, Vegas won that game on goaltending. The problem with the Jets right now is not their 5-on-5 play. They've been great at 5-on-5, to be honest, and have carried the play in the majority of their games this year, including that game against Vegas. The issue for the Winnipeg Jets right now is their special teams. Hellebuck is back and is playing well, but they've still allowed a power play goal in 8 of 9 games, and their power play has really, really been struggling. So I'll certainly be watching that one. Might get in on a game proper or so, but I'm going to be staying away. But I also would not be confident, if you were just thinking, well, Vegas is 9-0-1. Obviously, they're going to win this game. I think this is going to be a real challenge for Vegas. We're going to talk to Jesse Granger from The Athletic a little later on WST. Some of the players have said on Vegas that they don't really like the way they're playing right now. And yet they're 9-0-1 on the season. So that's going to be, I think, a little bit of a stay away game for me. We do have a couple of other interesting late games. The Canucks are rolling right now. They're a -221 favorite against the San Jose Sharks. I think you could almost, if you really wanted to kind of keep that going, hit that puck line. At plus 120 at -1.5. The Sharks are horrible. They're the only team that haven't won a game so far this year. And again, we talked about Vancouver having that great start and then going in and getting stoned and shut out by Carter Hart in Philadelphia earlier this season. Kind of don't think we'll see that in San Jose tonight. So certainly like Vancouver. And a couple other interesting games later on that we should maybe touch on. Montreal in Arizona to take on the Coyotes. The Habs somehow are 5-2-2 in this season.
I know.
Plus 108. And of course, the Coyotes were going at it with the Ducks late last night. So maybe a good spot for the Canadians, even though I think the Coyotes are a better team. And this is a pretty interesting one between two teams that haven't had great starts. Nashville, who I imagine will be a pretty desperate team going in to take on the Kraken, who have not had a great start. They're a hardworking team. They're in it quite often. They just broke a losing streak to finish up their road trip. But this is the old first game back after a relatively long road trip against a team that's been sitting there waiting for him after that loss to Vancouver earlier this week. You got any lean on the Kraken Preds?
No, my lean there would be probably bumping it up to 6.5 and going under, but that's -156. So I don't know if that's – I don't have a lean either way on the Preds Kraken straight up money line. I do like the Canucks a lot. The -1.5 at plus 120 is pretty good value. I looked, if you took it in regulation, I think it's -135. But if the Canucks are going to get the job done against the Sharks in regulation, I think I feel pretty comfortable about the puck line there at plus 120. So I definitely can ride with you on that one. You did make a case for an Oilers, and Richard brought up an interesting point as well. And I don't know where you might have mentioned this while you were laying it out, but Oilers have 3 days rest here, and Dallas is playing 3 and 4. So, from a spot play, if the Oilers can't get it done tonight, this city is going to be in bloody ruins tomorrow. So I don't mind that. I don't mind the Oilers. You might have convinced me on. I just didn't want to be Edmonton guy who ruined the parlay by being gung ho on them. But in that spot, they should be able to take advantage of it, I would think. So
Well, and here's the other thing. I don't think you're going to see Jake Ottinger tonight.
no, Wedgwood will go tonight. Yeah, it'll be Wedgwood.
Wedgwood is. I mean, they haven't confirmed that. They probably won't have a morning skate, but it looks like it's going to be Stuart Skinner and Wedgwood going at it. And as I say, I think this Oiler team really needs to put a few performances together. And I know that Heritage Classic is a very different beast on its all on its own. But the emotional lift of getting Connor McDavid back, getting that win, I think puts them in a much better headspace going into this game. But the Edmonton Oilers should be playing with a real sense of urgency right now because we've seen what Vancouver's doing. LA, Vegas. You get too far behind this earlier in the season, and all of a sudden you're just worrying about getting into a wild card, and that's not what anybody expected for this Edmonton club this year.
All right, so we got two. We got the Canucks puck line plus 120. We got the Oilers money line minus 140. You did mention the Habs. I don't mind that as a spot play either. I could be convinced. I could be convinced on that one.
The other one I like is another road team. And I've been just hitting all road teams lately, it seems. But whatever, it's been working out. Is the Hurricanes at MSG against the Rangers. And again, we can't put too much into this first game back after a road trip. But we saw the Rangers here on Monday night. And listen, they are a really, really good team. I mean, they do so many of those little things right. But the Jets really did carry the play, I thought, for most of the 5-on-5 play. And the Rangers won it with special teams. Carolina had that rough start, but they have really gotten their act together. And I think that this is the sort of a game coming off 3 straight wins against the Kraken, Sharks, and Flyers that they're going to be ready for, prepared for. And I think this is sort of a tough spot for New York, kind of coming back at home after running the table the way they did out west.
5-game trip, yeah.
5-game trip. So I'm going to be on the Canes money line tonight, I think, as well. And if you like that one, I'll certainly throw that one in with those other two.
Yeah, I can do that. I think you're right. 5 straight wins on the road for the New York Rangers. They've had a great start to the season. Carolina's starting to figure out, and this will be that spot where Carolina has something to prove to themselves. Like the 3 games that they put together, this winning streak, not a team remotely close to the caliber of the New York Rangers, right? So they should see the opportunity here tonight for this one. So that's going to be a pretty decent number, actually, I think. If we go Carolina money line, Edmonton money line, and then the Canucks on the puck line at plus 120, I mean, that's gotta lay it out.
That's right. Edmonton, I had the Kings in as the other
so pick, that would change it a bit. But, yeah. So you want to do that, or do you want Kings instead of Oilers? I think
I like Kings instead of Oilers. You know what? I think the Oilers maybe actually is the play. We've talked this one through. Yeah. We like the spot. They're getting the backup goalie. It's 3-4 for Dallas. This is a tough spot. So let's see. We throw in Edmonton. So if we go, so it's plus 465 if we go Canucks in regulation. If we take Canuck puck line at plus 120, it's plus 614.
I'm going to buy into the Canucks, man. Let's take the plus 614. Let's go 614.
I like it.
I have a feeling like we get thousands of lock shoppers around the world cheering for a Elias Pettersson empty netter tonight. You know, I like the idea of that. All right, so there you go, Patty, Evdog, whoever's in today. We are looking at Oilers money line, Canucks puck line, and Carolina money line for our partner parlay. Pat Gregoire is going to be ready to join us right away. Let me just text Matty. You can come throw him. He'll throw him back into the. Huss, give me your thoughts on the Thursday nighter while we bring Patty in here.
Well, the Thursday nighter. We got the Titans and the Steelers. Will Levis looked great in his first start last week with 4 touchdowns and the hop trick for DeAndre Hopkins with 3 touchdowns. And the Steelers, the Steelers just didn't they were a disappointment last week. This is a real tough spot to come in for a rookie quarterback to go up against this Pittsburgh defense in a prime time in a game that, certainly the Steeler faithful will be showing up for and will be behind them. The one thing that makes me nervous about Pittsburgh, just going up against Levis with the success he had the first week, is the fact that Minkah Fitzpatrick, the general of their secondary, is out for this game tonight. That being said, I'm already on Pittsburgh at -2.5. I see that the number has actually changed a little bit. Like if you go to CoolBet right now, instead of it coming up at 2.5, it shows as 3 and -103 for Pittsburgh. And the -2.5 is now at -119. I think I had it in at about -112 from yesterday or so. But listen, this is going to be a tight game. This is the old pro line tie game, if you know what I'm saying. It's probably a field goal one way or the other. But I am on Pittsburgh at -2.5. And that's, again, a bet sort of on Tomlin, the Steelers defense. And, they'll have a little bit more tape on Levis after his debut last week. And I'm not sure he'll have as easy of a time doing it in Pittsburgh against that Steeler defense, even without Minkah Fitzpatrick, than he did in his debut last weekend.
All right, let's bring in Pat Gregoire, Pete Greggy from CoolBet. Patty, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing good, boys. Just as you guys bring me on here, have some good news. The Edmonton Sports Talk parlays are both up at CoolBet. The Oilers won with McDavid, 1 goal, Bouchard 1 point, and the Oilers to win at +370. That one's up. And then, of course, the play with Mr. Lean and your pick as well, Levis, 200+ passing yards, and Hopkins, 53+ receiving yards is at +175. So you can get those ones up there. All our other exclusives will be hopefully within the next hour or so.
Pat, before we get into this football game, 11 in a row on the play of the day after Buffalo as a slight underdog yesterday.
Yep.
How do you feel about me leaning to make it a dozen by going with the Leafs on the road in Boston against a team that has yet to lose in regulation?
Part of me absolutely loves it. Absolutely loves it. You riding with the Leafs. You could say that it was a look ahead spot on Halloween. The Leafs were focused on going up against their perennial rival in the Bruins, a team that away from the playoffs, they've actually played quite well. On the flip side, if this streak comes to an end and it's because of the blue and white, myself and Jake Bolin Moss will never, ever hear the end of it.
And I will never let you forget. I will never let you forget. Yeah.
Oh,
hey,
yes.
I'll own it. I like the spot. Hey, I bet against the Leafs with the Kings plus 135 earlier this week. I think I'm just seeing this. I expected that a late game on Halloween. There was a lot going on around it. I think getting out of town after those 2 losses, going up against a team like Boston, they've got a bit of a rivalry with. They know they've set the bar so far. This is a big game for Toronto. Mm-hmm. I think their big guys stand up. And I'll tell you what, the thing, maybe given everyone healthy, maybe I wouldn't feel as confident. But the loss of Charlie McAvoy on that blue line in 25 minutes absolutely is massive. And, I think it's exacerbated by, the heat that the Leafs bring with their top end players right now. So I like the spot for Toronto. As I said, I could have gone for maybe a chalkier pick just to keep it going, but we've had underdogs for the last 2 days. This one was a straight pick on when I sort of kind of decided on it, and I'm feeling good about the Leafs right now. So get ready for a win this evening. That's what I got to tell you and Jake.
Flip that, save it for the future. Haas is feeling good about the Leafs here. This will not end. This will not end in a terrible fashion.
Jake's in and says, would be a real shame if the Oilers ruin the partner parlay. Dusty, don't wish bad things upon the boys in blue. Now, that being said, Huss was the one who initially brought the Oilers into the partner parlay. I just said I'd ride with them on it. So we'll see how it sorts itself out. They are in a good spot, though, tonight. As for this NFL game tonight, I do quickly want to go back because last Friday I was driving down to Calgary listening to the Lock Shop with Pat and Jake and Huss, and hearing that the Pittsburgh Steelers were going to get it done against Jacksonville. And I do believe I texted you guys and said Jacksonville Jaguars are going to get this thing taken care of. And they did. It wasn't in thrilling fashion in any way, shape, or form, but Trevor Lawrence managed to get the job done again. In fact, their defense managed to get the job done again. Pat, are you on the Steelers? Are you going to ride with Huss on the Steelers tonight or what?
I really don't know what to expect of this game, to be quite honest, because they're two teams that, quite frankly, at the start of the year, I was coming in really, really low on. I've thrown out all the trends, all the stats, everything about the Steelers team, and it finally came to fruition last week, but that was going up against a really good Jacksonville team. And like you said, that defense that probably doesn't get nearly as much praise as they probably deserve. With that being said, you've got the Titans coming in, a team that you really don't know what you can get here. Like you thought maybe this was going to be a game where Derrick Henry wasn't going to be there anymore. Hopkins wasn't going to be there anymore. Now all of a sudden it feels like maybe there's a little bit of belief in this locker room, a belief that this team can at least be competitive. I was thinking, this is an under game, but this looks like a Big Ten like game between Northwestern and like Michigan State or Iowa, like 36.5 for a primetime game between two NFL teams. Like that might even be too low for me to bet the under. I think if I had to lean one way, I think because now it's 2-3. I think this is Pittsburgh. You take them -2.5. Hold your nose a little bit here, but I mean, Levis looked really good. Levis looked actually really, really good. Is he going to be able to do it up against, I know I've said it, a Steelers team that is, everyone says they're good, but when you look at the metrics, when you look at everything, they're really a really, really lucky defense. They're a team, you think of the term.
Opportunistic.
Yes, that's not what I was going to say. I was going to say bend, don't break. But I think that goes hand in hand with this defense. They just come up with big moments whenever you think things are really going to start to unfold for them. One of their big game breakers, make a play, but you said it, arguably outside of Watt, their biggest game breaker on defense, not here tonight. So I really don't have a strong lean, but if I'm leading, I'll ride with Huss. Hottest better in North America right now. So I'd be crazy not to.
Listen, we all know what the bet is tonight, and I'm just looking
field goals.
It's not up there right now. But talk to Ev Dog or whoever, and let's get this over 3.5 field goals up here and find a number for that right away, because that, I think, is if I wanted to stay away from hockey and the Leafs, that is a perfect play of the day for a Thursday night game between these two teams. That being said, I'm committed to the Leafs. That is going to be the pick. But maybe a Leafs and over 3.5 field goal parlay might be on my card tonight as well. I'm betting both of those as soon as we get the kicking up in the book. That's going to be a play tonight. I mean, this has 6 or 7 field goals written all over it, to be honest with you. Definitely more field goals than touchdowns, I think.
I'm thinking this might have to be an alternate field goal frenzy. Maybe we look at 4.5, heck, maybe even 5.5.
Imagine being so sick that we're cheering for 6 field goals in a primetime game.
It screams it. It absolutely screams it. I know it's not up there yet. My primetime parlay will be both quarterbacks to throw an interception and over 3.5 field goals. I am a sick puppy. I can't. That's the first time I just voiced that parlay out.
Yeah.
And just listening to it, I am an absolute sicko. That is a gross parlay, but
here we are cheering for an absolute train wreck in Thursday Night Football.
Well, I don't know whether you really need to cheer or will it to happen. I mean, look at both of these teams right now, and I think it's highly likely that we'll have something that resembles somewhat of a train wreck.
I am going to get on the Titans +3 here. I'll go against the hottest man in the nation and Huss right now. Levis's debut kind of got lost. Like, it didn't get lost because they were obviously talking about it, but it was lost in a big slate of games in the early. Now he gets his chance to come out. He didn't look afraid. Like, from what I saw, he didn't look afraid of the moment last week. DeAndre Hopkins was dealing with a toe issue all week. He's good to go. So that's huge for a young guy to have him that you can look at. You talk about the loss on the defense on the other side for Pittsburgh, and we have to remember that they should still be able to dictate a game with the ground attack if they want to. So, yeah, I mean, it's probably going to come down to one of the 7 or 8 field goals we see in this game. But if it comes down to that, and you got the Titans at +3, I'll ride with the Rook here and see what he does in the primetime game.
You know, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that game was a little bit off the radar. I mean, I think the Titans are probably one of the most off the radar teams.
Their entire season's off the radar.
In the National Football League as it was. They were 2-4 going into that game. And, you know, a noon game against Atlanta in the mixed of, like, at the bar I go to, I don't even think that one made one of the 7 screens.
Huss.
So, I mean, it literally was out of sight, out of mind.
Huss, Titans, Falcons could be playing in my backyard and I'm drawing the blinds down. Like, there's no way that's making one of the main screens. Give me a break.
I can't believe we're saying that about Bijan Robinson's team. You know, like, get that guy going, for goodness sakes. It drives me nuts with what's happening.
My guy, former left-hand upper, Taylor Heineke, getting the start for the Falcons this week. I know we'll kind of dig into that a little bit more tomorrow when we do our best bets for the week in the NFL. But Arthur Smith could only watch Desmond Ridder fumble that ball away for so long. And they're making a move because, as I say, the Falcons, despite, you know, being a very, very mediocre team, they have the second easiest schedule the rest of the way. They're at 4-4. We've talked about how weak that NFC South division is. I think the Saints are still probably more than likely the ones to win it, but it is there for the taking. And of course, they're going up against the Vikings. Perfect timing without Kirk Cousins as they move the rookie Hall in there. And then we'll see what happens with Josh Dobbs, whether he's going to pick up the starting duties later on this season. But they're getting the Vikings at a good time. And I think they realize how important it is to get a win. And that's why they're moving away from Ridder to Heineke.
Boys, what about player props? Let's build a little partner parlay for this game tonight. I mean, we can throw the field goals in on every single prop of all time. It's just going to add value to it, I would think. But from player prop perspective, Pat, you're a big prop guy. What are you seeing tonight?
Yeah, I did like the Hopkins play that you talked and laid out really nicely. Like, I think when we see a lot of these young quarterbacks come into the league, they find like a comfortable, you know, this comfort zone. And who better for the Titans and Levis than Hopkins? But that with being said, we don't want to, you know, hammer too many the same props on a bunch of different parlays. I will stay with a number one receiver, and I think that Pickens, speaking of comfort zones or, you know, having that comfort target, that's been the case for Pickett since you know, Pickens has come back. I think his receptions is at over 4.5. I really like that. I also like his yards there. It's tough when you think it's going to be a little bit of a low scoring game. A lot of the player props really don't necessarily jump out at you. I don't think we have a sack total yet. But if we go into the bet builder, a TJ Watt sack would not be out of the realm to add to a parlay for sure. So
TJ Watt in prime time in Pittsburgh when they need him with Fitzpatrick out.
Yeah,
I love it. I think
that's
Watt.
I think that's got to be in there.
And you know what? Before I run, throw me in for Jaylen Warren over 19.5 receiving yards.
I had that too, buddy. Warren. I love you brought that up. He's only been under that twice all year.
Well, yeah. I mean, he had 19 on the nose last week. So, I mean, listen, you need an extra yard. The week before was a bit of a disaster in that game against the Rams, although he did rush a little bit more. But previous to that, 3 catches for 39 against Baltimore, 6 for 26 against Houston, 3 for 23 against the Raiders. He is a guy that I really do think that they're trying to get more involved, and it seems to happen quite often in the passing game. And, you know, I was thinking about the receptions, but I like him to get to 20 receiving yards. Yeah. So throw me in for Jaylen Warren over 19.5 for our little same game partner.
Are you taking off us?
Yeah, I'm gonna
Okay.
run out right
What's
away.
coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk?
A busy show. Actually, Nails is going to join us from Orchard Park, New York, and we're going to do a little combo segment, getting ready for the CFL playoffs, some CFL news and notes, as well as the latest on the Bills as they get ready for the Bengals on Sunday night. Of course, Jets taking on Vegas tonight. We've got Jesse Granger jumping on from the Athletic in Vegas, Murata Tesh as well from the Athletic, and our pal Brandon Rowicki jumping on. So we'll get to all of that, kick around the Cool Bet lines later on with all of these hockey games as well. See what Remus thinks about it. But a busy game day edition, lots of hockey, a little football mixed in as well. And we'll be live at 1 o'clock or, 15 minutes, whatever time it is where you're at, over on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Head on over there, give us a sub on the channel, and join us after the festivities are done on EST.
Excellent, buddy. We'll be watching a little bit later on. Thanks a lot.
Can't believe I'm going to say this, but go Leafs, go.
This is what the streak has done to this guy.
Let's go.
This is what the streak has done to this guy. Dropping a Go Leafs Go. We've done, 400 episodes of The Lock Shop. I don't think he's ever wrapped one with a Go Leafs Go. What a sick bastard. That's unbelievable. Okay, so you have the sack. He's got Jalen Warren. I'm kind of on board with Derrick Henry over 72.5 rushing yards in his last 4 games. First of all, last year, 22 carries, or last week, 22 carries. What did it lead to? It led to success for a young quarterback and a victory eventually. In his last 4 games, he's got 2 100-yard games and 97 yards against the Baltimore Ravens. So we're getting this number at 72.5. The Pittsburgh Steelers are like 8th in the league in yards against on the ground so far this year. And if we view this game as a low-scoring affair, I think we're going to see a lot of Derrick Henry in this ball game. So over 72.5 yards, I really like. And then we get in basically on a sack and 2 of the running backs in this game, 1 through the air and 1 on the ground. I don't know, 72.5. It just seems like a really reasonable Derrick Henry number.
So, you talked about the Steelers' defense. They're giving up 137.1 rushing yards per game. Like you said, that's 6th worst in the NFL. 4.5 per carry.
Per touch, right?
Yeah. I think we see Henry really, really and you talked about it. It's a young quarterback that's going to open up the passing game. I think we see a heavy dose early on, and to kind of lean into you thinking yes, Levis was awesome. I don't think it's going to be here, hand the offense to Levis. You're going to go crazy. Yeah. I still think they're going to protect him, and I think we're going to see a lot of Henry. With that being said, just doing it through the bet builder, there isn't an option for the number you said right now. Again, we can customize it ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the great thing. So just so we have a ballpark idea of what the number could look like. If we were to do over 69.5 with the 2 other ones that we talked about, that would go to plus 375. That's not including a boost.
So we're looking at 4-1, right? Probably. Yeah. So what's the next level?
Yep. The next level up is 79.5, so 80, and that boosts it all the way up to plus 500 before the fellas tinker with it in the cool bet back end.
Yeah, I think you make the call on this one. What do you think?
Oh man, I 70 plus yards. You're going to get it at plus 375
boost,
before the boost. Yeah. I don't know if we want to get too greedy.
No,
I really don't.
I think that's probably the way to go. That's what I was going to say. So yeah, let's go Derrick Henry, 70 plus, Jalen Warren, 20 plus basically through the air, and then the sack.
Plus 375 before the boost. So should be around that 400 mark. I love it. There we go. This is a really nice parlay.
All right. I like that, man. Enjoy that game tonight. And we'll catch you up to tomorrow back here in the Lock Shop, buddy.
Awesome. Can't wait. And this is normal, but I'll still say it. Go Leafs, go.
Get all these guys out of here. This is a disgusting episode of the Lock Shop. I'm going to be sick to my stomach. What are these guys talking about? All right, here we go. Fantasy Football 5 brought to you by our great partners at Century Casino, Sports Bar and Lounge, Fort Road. Join Lieutenant Eric tonight. He will be there for that Steelers-Titans game that we were just talking about. If you are listening live right now on TuneIn or on our web player at edmontonsportstalk.com, and you do have any fantasy football questions, feel free to fire them over at 780-218-9999. And, of course, if you are in the nasty chat right now, let's go. Can you believe everybody? Like, Lock Shop was gross today. I'll just leave it at that. Now, with that being said, I like a lot of the stuff that we built. You'll be able to find a lot of it in the exclusives page. And last night was a great night. I'm not saying that tonight will be great as well, but, sometimes you get on a little bit of a heater, and you got to ride it for a little bit. From a fantasy football perspective, we'll take a look at your starts and sits for tonight's football game. And where do you come out on going after a piece of the Browns' running game rest of season in fantasy? I'm just curious where we come out on this. Like, if you were to go out and trade for Kareem Hunt right now, good idea, bad idea. I'm leaning on, like, I'm kind of on the fence. I'm kind of stuck in the middle. Not too sure where to go on that one. It's just there's not a lot of running backs that you're going to find available, right? Also, I've got an interesting proposal from a guy in one of our leagues, which is I got to get to because I had a chuckle because I think it's ridiculous, but we'll get to that in a second. Jeff is in, and once again, 780-218-9999. Two guys in the goalie coming up. We'll get you ready for the Oilers and Stars, myself, Gage, and Cass. Jeff is in and says, who do you start, Darrell Henderson or James Cook? Man, that's the point of the season that we are at right now, right? We're in the James Cook versus Darrell Henderson portion of the schedule, which is never ideal, but we all have these decisions to make. Let me just look at their matchups. I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. Give me 1 sec here. Henderson is your typical start him for 3 weeks of the year, and then at the beginning of the next season, you're like, oh, I didn't even know that guy was still on a team. And then you're starting him at some point as you work your way through the season. So James Cook would be the immediate thought process for me here. Henderson does get Green Bay. Pretty juicy matchup. Cincy Buffalo could be a little bit of a shootout. I think I'd still go Cook. in that one. Oh, Pat's chimed back in and says 3.5 field goals up at plus 105. Kevin says, would you start Henderson? I would start Henderson, but I'm starting Henderson in a non-ideal RB2 spot. You know, like I'm not starting Henderson thinking, okay, this guy can win me my week. But I would start him. Like I need some other options. Like who? Like let me see. Let's just take a look here. I'm looking at Fantasy Pros right now. They have Henderson. Where is he? I just saw him. They have him 29. So they have him in the range of just ahead of Jalen Warren, just ahead of Damian Pierce and Singletary. Houston, that backfield's a little confusing right now. And he's right behind Madison. He's right behind Brian Robinson. Like I think this is a pretty good spot that they have him in. I'm not starting him ahead of Zach Moss. I'm not starting him ahead of Gus Edwards. I'm not starting him ahead of Kareem Hunt or Jerome Ford, either of those running backs in Cleveland. I might start him ahead of Alexander Madison. And I would start him ahead of Brian Robinson Jr. this week. And I would start him ahead of DeMercado for Arizona. So, and he's a borderline RB2 with limited expectations. He's a flex. If you don't have a wide receiver flex this week, you'll probably be fine flexing Henderson this week. Wheels is in and says, I can't stand the Packers. Go Titans. And by the way, what's up with all these Leafs fans? Are we in Toronto all of a sudden? Calm down, Wheels. All right? Huss bet on the Leafs tonight to keep his 11-game heater going. And yes, Pat and Jake from CoolBet are, in fact, Toronto Maple Leafs fans. But we don't hold them against because they're great partners. They're great partners at CoolBet. And because of that, we let their ridiculousness around the Toronto Maple Leafs continue to slide. All right, as for tonight's game, let's take a quick look here at your starts and sits. I know Hopkins has been banged up a bit this week. He is playing tonight, so of course you're starting him. You're starting Derrick Henry. I would not be starting Will Levis unless I was in a 16-team league and I was dealing with serious quarterback issues, like one Matthew Owanek, who's sitting over at the computer right now. On the other side for Pittsburgh, don't love Najee Harris, don't love Jalen Warren, but I can see some value for them. Warren in PPR, he gets targeted like 4 or 5 times a game. That's something you can go with. Quarterback situation, you're not starting anybody in Pittsburgh. Deontay Johnson, you're starting at this point, and really not much else. It should not be a big fantasy football night, I don't think. All right, so I had a couple of things. I had one of the guys in my big boy league, we call it, reach out to me and be like, hey, will you move Jalen Warren or Jalen Waddle? And I was like, yeah, maybe. I mean, I could consider moving him. And he has Tyreek Hill. So, and he has Tua. So he's looking at just completely loading up on the Miami Dolphins and trying to win this way. So I went and looked at the rest of his lineup, and he's like, he wanted Jalen. Let me see. Let me bring it up. I got it right here. He wanted Waddle. And another one of my guys was like, any combination. Oh, he wants David Montgomery coming off of an injury at some point. Montgomery and Waddle for any combination of players you want, not named Tyreek. So then I go and I look at his team, and I honestly think Waddle and Montgomery would be his second and third best players. Like, there's nobody else on the roster that I am remotely interested in. So I don't know if he's going around to everybody and being like, can you please take the 95% of my roster that is absolute garbage and give me somebody from the Dolphins that I can tie into here? What I should do is try to dump off A-Chain on him for when he comes back from injury. But, yeah, not happening. Sometimes the fantasy football discussions are just too much to handle. Too much to handle, I tell you. 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. This guy is texting me his entire roster asking who would I start and who would I flex. All right, let me see here. Let me see. This is nice. This is nice. I like this. I have to look at all of these options. Let's see. So he's starting C.J. Stroud, Foreman, Barkley, A.J. Brown, K.J. Osborne, Trey McBride, and Henderson. Oh, dude. What are you your record can't be that good here, I wouldn't think. Howell and Purdy, Ayuk, they're on bye. Dobbs, no good. I think he probably got the lineup set the way, yeah, he's got Laporta on bye. Now, if you are still listening, Kevin, if you're still listening, man, I'd leave it the way that you have it. And to be honest with you, I'd probably start focusing on next year. But you never know. Marcus says, he probably has Sky Moore. Nobody wants Sky Moore. And that, of course, is a classic Fantasy Football 5 joke. That's going to do it for Fantasy Football 5 today, brought to you by Century Casino. Tonight, Titans-Steelers. Hockey game will be on over there as well at Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge. Go join Lieutenant Eric. Should be an outstanding evening. We've got 2 guys and a goalie coming up next, setting up the Oilers and the Dallas Stars, changes in Ottawa, and a whole lot more right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Don't go anywhere.